Welcome back to Think Big with Michael Zellner, powered by Platinum Jewelers. Joining me today is Taijon Duverger, owner of Kaizen Canine, for part 2 of this podcast to talk about my favorite subject, doggies.
Dogs.
Yes, dogs. He is one of the leading dog trainers in the industry today, and we just sort of touched the surface in part 1. And so I had to have him back on today to give us some more of his expert knowledge on the subject with us. Hey, John, thanks for coming back on the show today.
You're welcome. I brought a guest. I have my boy, King. He's about a 6-month Cane Corso. He's already weighing around 70 pounds, so he's going to be a big boy.
Awesome. That's a pretty dog there.
Yeah.
It looks like he's very well behaved, just wagging his tail.
So far, so good. You know, training them to be on their bed and hang out so that they know that being in place is a good thing. And that prevents a lot of bad behaviors that people experience every day with their dogs.
Absolutely. I experience a lot of bad behaviors with my dogs, but I love them enough to where I just look past it.
Yep.
You know, hey, John, you've gone through over 1,000 hours of training. You know, you did that, you completed in 2021. You also completed a 200-hour mentorship course with Garrett Wing, who's the owner and founder of American Standard Canine in South Florida. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about some of the different trainings that you've gone through over the years and, about what you're able to do now. And also, what Garrett, taught you while you train with him.
So I train with Garrett. Garrett, if people don't know, is also one of another big trainer in the industry. What I learned there was that dogs learn very fast. In a few reps, you want to be careful what you reinforce. Sorry, I got this big guy making sure he does his job. So dogs learn very fast, and you want to make sure that you're great when you're rewarding them. Make sure what you're rewarding is what you want. Keep your training sessions short and sweet, and do them more often. So those were things that I learned there, and the application of the theory. So that was big for me. And dogs are smart, so he knows I have my back to him, so he's trying to chew on the leash right now. So people are seeing me handle what they have at home. So he's chewing on the leash right now. Mm-hmm. So I grab the leash, and if he tries to bite it, I'll pop the leash out of his mouth. Right? So that he knows to leave my leash alone. And that's all about timing. Right? So he chews on the leash, I pop the leash out of his mouth. He tries again, I pop the leash out of his mouth. That third time, he's like, dude, what's going on? So he doesn't want to go after the leash anymore. So then now I come in and I say, good. He's there, but he's a big dog, So now I can go over there and say, good boy, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing now. Now I take this to the next level. Ultimately, what I would be giving him a chew or something else to preoccupy his mind. Since he's a younger dog, he might be teething. I also have to take that into consideration. Am I mentally stimulating the dog? Am I physically stimulating the dog before I start complaining about, what's going on with him?
It's amazing how they know that, that your back is to them, just, thinking about that on a conscious level, how they're able to process that.
Yeah. I mean, they're very visual. So I tell people your dog is studying at the University of Michael or the University of Think Big. They know what's going on with you, even when you don't know what's going on with you.
Right. Oh yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. He's a young dog. So I'm trying to keep him in the picture so you guys can see. Yeah. We have to keep his mind preoccupied, keep him going. Let him know that, hey, buddy, stay with me. We're still in the game. We're still doing things together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One of the testimonials I read about you said that you understand, quote, modern dog psychology, which is, I guess, a little bit about what we just talked about. Tell us a little bit about, where you see dog training now compared to where it was maybe, 20 years ago.
So dog training is quickly evolving. And that's actually a great topic because there's been a recent discussion of what's going on in dog training, but it has been evolving over centuries. So if you look at a dog training book from maybe 1960s, 1950s, you might find a trainer telling people to hit their dogs with a newspaper, right? If you look at something in the 80s, you might find, hey, leave a mousetrap on your windowsill when your dog tries to go on the window. They get hit with a mousetrap, right? Hidden, that's hidden underneath the newspaper. So dog training is evolving now, so much so that you'll see what we call a force-free or positive-only movement. And what is kind of dangerous about that is, yes, we want to reinforce dogs. Yes, we always want to reward them for doing well. But at the same time, there has to be at a certain point a consequence for not doing the right thing. Now, does that consequence need to be excessive? No. So right now, if you see a lot of things in the headlines for dog training, they're trying to ban certain tools. They're also trying to stop some effective training that some dogs need. Just because I'm able to train one dog with a lot of positive reinforcement doesn't mean the next dog I'm not going to correct for doing something wrong. And it's just important that we realize that we as humans communicate with humans well, but we also could improve. But how can we say we communicate with dogs better than dogs communicate with dogs? So if you study how dogs communicate with dogs, it's very physical. It's very visual. They see their body language. It's a quick correction from one dog from another dog. So of course we can do better, but we have to kind of say, hey, we're not able to train dogs better than dogs are able to train each other. Right. So that is a bold statement, but that's how I feel about it. Training, modern dog psychology is understanding the owner, understanding the environment, and understanding the animal, the demands of the animal. And it's also understanding what are the goals for this family? How can we align them with the dog? And how can we do this in a way that's fair and effective for the dog? That's what I consider it.
We talked about, I have 3 miniature schnauzers, and two of them, it's Lucy, Rocky, and Georgie. And Rocky and Georgie came from the same litter. And so obviously they're brothers. They know they're brothers. It's amazing how they act towards each other, laying next to each other. I mean, every once in a while, the one will put their head on the other's back as they're laying next to each other. Mm-hmm. There's obviously just so much true love there.
Yeah. Dogs are very affectionate naturally. They really are social animals. They're all about their pack, all about being with their family. And that can also be a detriment to some dogs where they so much overprotect their owners or become guarding their own owner, resource, guarding a person. But dogs are very loving. And I think that is one of the reasons we selfishly bring them into our world and domesticate them. Right. So that's another thing that I like to bring awareness to, is that when we take these dogs, right, we take these big, beautiful dogs and we say, hey, you're not going to be in the wild anymore. You're not going to hunt for your food. You're not going to do any of these things. No, Spot. You're not going to hunt anymore. You're not going to do what you're supposed to be doing naturally. It's very selfish. So what we need to do is meet some of the demands of the animals, right? So if they're not hunting for their food, we should probably start up some problem solving for their food, play games for your food, right? Do something like this for your food. So that way, one, it stimulates them. And two, we're starting, or at least trying to meet some of the natural desires of the animal.
That makes a lot of sense. And speaking of food, you and I talked off air about dog food and how important it is for the life of the dog that they're eating what's best for them. And as a disclaimer, what Taijon is going to share with us today is his knowledge of studying what he feels is best for, our four kids to eat. But, and I'm sure you would say this, before anyone changes their dog food, they need to go and do their own research. They need to, obviously consult with their veterinarian, before they do something like that, especially, if they're on, medicated dog food and prescription dog foods in general. Share us, if you would, a little bit about, your thoughts, on what you feed your dogs and why you feel that food that the dogs eat is so important to how long the dogs are going to, live in many cases.
It's very important that we feed what we'll consider a BARF diet. So that stands for biologically appropriate raw food diet. Now, the only downside to feeding a BARF diet, as far as my understanding of the situation, is that it can be expensive for us. But in the long run, it provides the health in sorry, I lost my train of thought because attention to my guy over here. But in the long run, it provides a longer life for your dog. They're eating a diet that's primarily of raw meat, bones, organs, And this is actually scientifically broken down. So typically a dog needs to eat 80% organs and bones, and then they'll start to go down into the meats, into the next thing, into the next thing. Where people start cooking for their dog is they primarily feed it meat, but it's lacking in nutrients since it's not directly sourced from organs and then bones. So if you're looking for advice on this, you should look for a certified nutritionist. Another thing to bring into the light is the fact that most vets are not specialized in nutrition. I also tell people, hey, when you're looking to lose weight, your doctor is not going to be better than a nutritionist.
Right.
So you should look for a certified nutritionist, good boy, so that you're able to get the right advice. And now I also like to approach a holistic veterinary approach instead of a traditional veterinary approach. And you know that personally, Michael, because your dog is going through something right now with its kidneys, and your mom said, hey, why not try something that's more holistic or natural? And when you saw all these testimonials of people who were able to change their dog and make an effective long-term effect on what's going on with their dog, it's because of what we're feeding them. So dog biscuits didn't get popularized until about in the 1960s or 50s during the industrialization, the industrial revolution, when we started creating these factories. Next thing you know, you see advertisements for this biscuit. But before that, they were eating our scraps.
Right.
And then before that, they were eating what they could find in the wild. And what we found is over time, the lifespan of animals was declining. So we have to start asking ourselves, what was the change? Why our animals' lives are declining? And when we study animals like Maggie, the Kelpie that lived 30 years, then there's a dog that just broke the world record, Maggie's record of 30 and lived to 31. We have to ask, what are they feeding? What is their day-to-day? And you find when you study Maggie's diet that she wasn't eating these dry biscuits.
If dogs have been eating a certain food for a while, let's say, 10 years, the same food.
Yeah.
Is changing their food at that time, if you all of a sudden just change it to what you're talking about, the kind of food, the raw food, is that going to, make enough of a difference? Those 10 years, they weren't eating the best stuff, but now you're changing it. That's going to help them a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, it is going to help a lot. To answer that question, I don't like to compare dogs too much to humans because we're not the same. Right. But if I was eating McDonald's for, about 3-4 months straight or a year straight, and I suddenly decided to have a more whole food approach to my diet, right, I would see the results within the first couple of months. And that's what we're seeing. In fact, a lot of people do what you say, is wait for their dog to be elderly or have an issue to make the change. That's why I'm an advocate for preventative care. And I also think that if I had an insurance company for pets, or if I was an insurance company, I would reimburse or make it an incentive to pet owners who are trying to feed their dogs well.
Good idea.
So that they prevent disease. Because if we prevent the disease, ultimately as an insurance company, I'm not paying out claims for diseases, and I'm also keeping dogs alive longer.
And so many people don't really, I guess you could say, don't know any better because, what you see on TV, and we're not going to mention quote unquote any names per se here, but the main popular brands that are out there. And that's what most people are just eating because they're thinking, okay, if it's out there on the market, if it's at PetSmart or Petco, if my veterinarian carries it and recommends it, it must be good for them. And it's not that the vet is trying to give them anything bad, but just like you said, many times they don't know that there's the holistic food out there that's much better for them, right?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know. Well, there's a food that's called revolution going on, or food change. You're seeing brands like Fresh Pet, the Farmer's Dog, Ollie, all of these cooked food brands coming out. But there have been people who've been doing this for a very long time, like Steve's Real Food and Dr. Ian Billingers, if I'm saying that correctly, but he is the founder of the Barf Diet. And these people have been doing it for a while and seeing the change. You can also read the book called The Forever Dog, and that's by Dr. Karen Becker. and she talks about a lot of dogs and how you can ultimately get your dog on these diets that will make them feel better and live longer. So when we look at what Maggie the Kelpie was eating, they were feeding her a lot of house scraps, and they were also feeding her high quality protein. And she lived to live a long time. So that is one of the things that I like to tell people when it comes to their dog's nutrition.
So that book, The Forever Dog, what does that author recommend as far as the different kind of food?
So she recommends the barf diet approach as well. She has recipes on her Facebook group, and she also has another paid group where it's very cheap, where she'll break down recipes for you for your dog. Wow. Recipes can contain things like turkey neck, duck neck. Could also have some bone marrow in there. It might be a chicken feet in the meal. It's basically you'll have primarily organs. So you might have a beef liver in there. You always need organs in a meal, and then it might go into beefs, tendons, etc. Put a little fruit in there. A very common approach is to add fermented goat's milk. That is a prebiotic and a probiotic, which supports gut health. And gut health is very important for dogs. Immunity, just like for us, starts in the gut. So for dogs, it also starts in the gut. And if their gut is not healthy, what we see is that it will manifest into yeast infections, licking their paws, and even more illnesses later down the line. So if we challenge ourselves to balance out our dog's gut, you will see a change in them. You can also do a test with companies like Animal Biome and see the current health of your dog. What we've noticed before is you can see these companies are able to see what just barely looking into a microscope, the difference between one dog that is eating raw or at least eats fresh food, let's call it just scraps, versus another dog that is only eating kibble. The difference in the health of their biome it's crazy. It's crazy. It's also crazy how I can hear what a dog's doing. Like I don't even need to see them. I've been doing this for so long that I can hear from far away that this guy's chewing his leash.
That's so funny. He's having a good time back there.
Yeah, he's just hanging out. He's a little bored.
And one of the things I saw in the testimonials when I was reading, and you mentioned, the fresh pets and everything that I changed to is that, there's some things that, if the kidneys start to go really bad, there's some things that are, quote, they say are not, reversible. Well, it seems to me like, a lot of the foods, it helps straighten out a lot of those levels that maybe had gone higher, kidney levels, whether it was Cushing's, whatever it is, the liver, the kidneys, that they can, I don't want to use the word repair themselves, but that they can, get back to the levels to where the dog still can live a long life.
So it is reversible.
Okay.
It is reversible. It's not guaranteed. Right. It is reversible. It's just not guaranteed. So it's very interesting that now this barf diet has been around since like the 80s, 90s, even before that. One could argue that the wolves were eating fresh food since their existence. Well, I wanted to take this time to bring some more awareness to people who disagree with eating fresh food, because there are a particular set of people who are hardcore that kibble is advanced and it's more formulated than a raw diet. And to them, I challenge them to follow the money of where kibble is from. So I want to talk about this food company that is called Mars Incorporated. It's a privately held company based out of Virginia, and it owns chocolate like them to own, I believe, M&M's,
yeah,
etc. They also own, in the pet industry alone, Pedigree, Royal Canin, and Anacura, Wisdom Panel, and they own VCA hospitals, right? So these people own the labs that test your dog's blood. They own the labs that get the results for these things. Then they own the vets that request blood work and lab work. So when one entity owns the person who is making the food, the person who is evaluating the effects of your food, like a vet, and the person who is collecting the data of your dog's blood work, there is a lot of, let's call it, possibilities there, right? Now, this company recently, they recently purchased Origin, one of the kibbles that was actually 80% protein. It was a high-end kibble, that it was one that we recommended. And they also purchased Num Num. Num Num is a competitor to Fresh Pet, Ollie, Farmer's Dog. This company was the same company that decided to downplay and had basically owned vets that were not recommending these diets that you did your research and saw were changing dogs' lives. They were recommending that your dog would eat Purina Pro Plan, Royal Canin, etc., that these were superior. Now that they have, quote unquote, bought into companies, you're starting to see that message change in what they're advertising. It's very, I challenge people to follow the money, and you'll see. I just challenge you to do your research and see what's good for your dog, because I would hate for, just because you're listening to one vet, you would miss out on the opportunity to give your dog a long, healthy life.
It makes a lot of sense. When my dog, Rocky, is the one going through some kidney issues, and he got pancreatitis. The kidney levels had gone way up and scared the, crap out of me. Had to put him on intravenous fluids for several days, and then had to change his diet. And, the recommendation, I think my vet is really good and very proactive, which is what I really like. And the recommendation, I think, and she even told me this is, what he has to do. It needs to be a low fat. And he was eating some of it, started eating better. But then all of a sudden, when I said, I'm just going to look myself, and found the Fresh Pets. And all of a sudden, knock on wood here, over the last week, he's eating the crap out of it. I mean, he loves that food, and he's eating so much more, and it seems peppier and everything like that. And it seems a lot more back to normal. Now, his kidney levels are not normal where they need to be. But, thankfully at this point in time, he seems to be doing much better, and obviously enjoying that food much more, and it's healthier.
Yeah, that's what will happen is, the one I've noticed with the owners that have food issues, when we start incorporating fresh food, the dog wants to eat it. Because I wouldn't want to eat Frosted Flakes every day for the rest of my life, every meal. They like the food. Then we start seeing improvements in skin. We start seeing improvements in, if you were to test the dog's blood work and you see their biome, you'll see improvements there. So it might not be for every dog, but it is for most dogs. There might be a small percentage of dogs that might are better off. I'm not saying there's 100% guarantees here, right. But what I've noticed when I changed my dog from kibble to Steve's Real Food, which is a commercial raw pet food, that I am endorsing off of just my experience. I'm not sponsored in any way by them. They are, what I noticed was static was that his waist was smaller. In his waist, I could see real, not necessarily like real food, but I could see that there was a smaller amount of waste, and it was a whole different color. And it would basically turn into like poop dust or dust in a few days. So what that means is that he's able to absorb in his body, is using the nutrients from the food, therefore only leaving a minimal amount of waste. What I noticed when I would feed him on kibble was his waist was a lot bigger, and it looks like he wasn't absorbing as much of his nutrients. He was licking his paws more, and he was just itchy. Now he's not licking his paws as much. He's not as itchy, and he has what seems to be a healthier coat, shedding less. That is what I've noticed in my change. My clients all come to me and tell me the changes they've had, and we haven't had any, downsides yet. Now, when we're transitioning the foods, that is where people get a little impatient and they get concerned. But if your dog is going from kibble, a dry biscuit, the pH necessary to do that, your dog doesn't have enough bacteria to break down raw food yet. So you have to slowly transition as their body catches up to create the amount of bacteria to break down that raw food.
That makes a lot of sense. For many years, I would have my dogs their teeth cleaned, by a veterinarian, once a year. And having 3 dogs obviously wasn't cheap at all. I apologize. My screen seems to be freezing up a little bit here, so I
You're fine.
apologize on my end. So I'm glad you can still hear me. But but way more important was that is also when you have to have the teeth cleaned, dogs have to be put under anesthesia. Always at risk of something happening. This past year, I started, brushing my dog's teeth, every night. It takes less than 5 minutes to do. And I brush all 3 of them with the chicken flavored, toothpaste, which they obviously seem to like a lot. They have very little tartar now. Their breath is, much, much fresher than it was before. I understand that there's many dogs that the issues, health issues start in the mouth and spread from there. Have you found that to be true?
Yeah, we do want to keep their mouth clean. But what I've noticed is if they're eating raw food, that the dog's teeth naturally stay clean. Now, brushing the teeth helps, but I'm not seeing so much buildup when they eat raw food. Yeah, back in the molars, in particularly static molars, I might need to brush it every so often, but it's not building up as much and it's not building up as fast. So the only thing that I really do is try to keep his breath fresh and try to keep those molars clean. And you don't need to put them underneath, put them like and use anesthesia to clean their teeth and whatnot. So you're saving money. There's always risk associated with sedating your dog.
Yep.
So those are both pros to the situation.
Okay, I'm glad I asked you about that. That makes a lot of sense. So hopefully the food will make a big difference. Well, I don't have to do that all the time, even though I think they like it, because they like the taste of it. To sit there and lick that
they
chicken.
Always will take that chicken.
Yeah, they love that for sure.
Are you shopping for a new watch, an engagement ring, any kind of jewelry at all? What's up, Memphis? This is Jaren Jackson Jr. from the Grizzlies, encouraging you all to shop where I shop, Platinum Jewelers here in Memphis. Platinum Jewelers has a big selection of earrings, stockable rings, luxury watches, necklaces, bracelets, really whenever you need. 9387 Poplar next to Fresh Market in Germantown. So if you need anything jewelry related, go to my spot, Platinum Jewelers.
What are your thoughts on doggy CBD oil and other supplements that are out there on the market that that they say can help our dogs live longer lives? I was giving my dogs like doggy dailies that I found on Chewy and stuff like that. And, my vet looked at some of the stuff that was inside of them and she said some of that stuff might not be really good for them. What are your thoughts on some of that?
So my thoughts is I give Static concentrated CBD every day in his water. So there's 2 things that my dogs get every day. They get CBDs and then they also get prebiotic, probiotic help. So daily digestive enzyme supplement. I'm also looking to put them on a Vertimax supplement, which will also cover omegas 3, 6, 9. But it's important to understand that with CBD, it does have a benefit of reducing inflation, relieving pain, treating anxiety. It also can help with arthritis and joint pain, and it can help with some phobias a dog might have, right? So when it comes to using it, you have to use it appropriately. I would personally avoid a whole bunch of these CBD treats that don't even have the right amount of concentration for your dogs to see the benefits of it. Instead, I would just get the concentrated CBD itself and do the droplets according to your dog's weight. So if you need help with that, you can reach out to a holistic vet, ask them what is the correct dosage for CBD. You could also look it up online, but you want to make sure that you're giving concentrated CBD if you're going to invest into it instead of, I guess, purchasing these overpriced CBD treats.
Okay. That's very interesting because the CBD oil, I mean, I see so much of it out there on the market, for dogs, and you just don't know what's good and what isn't good.
Yeah, it's true. There's so much. I mean, it is great for your dog, but if it's just a treat that it doesn't have the amount of dosage, or you find yourself having to constantly buy the treat because you have to give so many, you're better off just getting down to the source where there isn't any other things, any other fillers, any additives, and just add it to their water and they'll enjoy it. So I give my dog CBD every day. His first bowl of water has CBD.
Oh, you put it in the water?
Yeah, nope. King spot. Good. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, I put it in the water. I caught him making a mistake, put him back on his bed. What got him distracted was a bug on the floor. So
Ah,
that's something with this breed, their vision is impeccable. I mean, it was a bug smaller than the size of a dime.
wow.
And he saw it, decided to go after it. I had to put him back on there, let him know it was not his job to be an exterminator.
So if I have three dogs that are drinking out of the same water bowl, I mean, is there like putting CBD? Would you suggest doing it under their tongue, or would you suggest putting in the water bowl if you just had thought about that?
If for you have three dogs, maybe it's better off putting it in the under the tongue. I didn't do that because it made a little bit more difficult to like open their mouth and do that. I could do it. But I found that he was just drinking water, so why not just put it in the water?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I might just put it in, do one dog at a time, just
Sure.
let him finish drinking all their water at a time.
Okay. Makes sense. Another great testimonial, I read a few the first time we talked is I wanted to read this from Summer Greg. Quote, Taijon was so patient with us and our puppy Poppy. He was always on time and professional. He helped Poppy go from being scared of everything or barking at everything and not listening well and always dragging me when we went on walks to being less anxious, less barking, walking beside me, not pulling me, and a great listener. He helped me become more confident when working with Poppy and helped me become more in control with her as well. Because of Taijon, we can now walk Poppy outside with a leash. I even got my 5-year-old niece to walk Poppy as she stayed right by her and did not pull her once. I highly recommend this company and Taijon. I cannot thank him enough for this help, unquote. One of the things that, she talked about in there was that Poppy was scared of everything and anxious. And I've noticed that my 3 miniature schnauzers, especially the boys, as they've gotten older, they've become a little bit more skittish than they were when they were younger. Is that happen sometimes? And, what are some of the ways that you're able to help dogs that are skittish?
So it is natural for one. You got to think about miniature schnauzer and smaller dogs. Everything is bigger than them in the world, and everything is bigger to them relative to their size. So what I found, I was watching Ant-Man, and I think that's a great perspective for us to think of when small dogs are happening. So Ant-Man is a very relatively small superhero. Everything is bigger than him, and the world becomes harder to, let's call it, exist in since he is so small. So when we have Chihuahuas, miniature schnauzers, toy poodles, etc., it's not weird for them to be super reactive because everything is bigger than them. So when we're dealing with these types of dogs, we have to do a lot of work to condition and socialize them to society. So when we do that on early, then as they get older, we do our best to keep that management the same so that they don't get as skittish. If a dog's skittish, but we really need to do it, there's a lot of reasons why it might be skittish. We have to figure out what's triggering the dog, what's causing that, what is the stimulus, and then we got to think about what is the response. So then we can now change or interrupt that trigger and condition a new response.
Interesting. And you're able to do that with dogs that are older that have been able, weren't skittish, became skittish, and then able to change that again?
Yeah, we're able to, let's call it, reduce the amount of anxiety, reduce the occurrence of it. I'm not saying that the dog's going to be robotic and not ever be skittish again, but you're going to see that the dog is a lot more confident. And the more you're able to bring the dog into new environments, the more confidence that they'll build. No. Right. So the more confidence is that they'll build. And the more that they do things the right way, the more they do things that will get them reinforced, the more they're going to not want to do the opposite. So what we do is we reinforce that confident behavior, and we also will basically ignore or correct the unwanted behaviors, right? So if the dog is getting real impatient and he wants to get off, I put him back on. I limit his option of getting off. And then now I have an opportunity to reinforce him deciding to go into a down, right? So I didn't say anything, but he's learning.
Right. You said, quote, at Kaizen, we believe a huge part of solution to this is training the human behind the dog to fit their lifestyle so they can enjoy a lifetime together. Dogs have inherent needs as social animals. They want to think, problem solve, and want to be part of a pack family dynamic, as you mentioned earlier, unquote. So it looks like that you see what the owner's life is like on a daily basis, and then you try to coordinate that with the dog and how you train them so it blends well together. Is that right?
Yeah, so what we want to do is create a training program that is going to be able to be implemented simply. We want you to be able to feel like between with work and your social life, etc., that you're able to train and manage your dog. So, I mean, a basic rule of thumb is if you have 15 minutes about 3 times a day, we can work with you. But I'm very upfront that if you feel like you don't have the time, and you're not going to have the time over the next, really the dog's life to work on a relationship with it, then I'm not your guy. I don't want to work with people who don't have the time, because we all have time for things that matter, and our dogs matter.
Absolutely, they matter. Obviously, with Kaizen, you believe that that dogs are a super part of your world. I mean, you're not going to spend the time with somebody if they're not willing to invest the time themselves.
No, the time is more important than the cost. If I will work with some folks if they don't have my usual rate, because I see that they have time and they're willing to put in the effort. More importantly, that these dogs, it's important that before we bring them into our lives, we think about the cost of them. We think about the amount of time they require, and we choose a breed that is going to be easy to integrate into our lives. So I want to advocate for the future of dog ownership to consider these factors before even thinking about bringing that dog home. It's a lot of impulsive dog owners, and we see the consequences and the effects of terrible decisions every day on the internet. And it just saddens me to see, unnecessary dog fights, so anxious dogs, all these dogs that are going into the wrong homes, while we create a society or we create a culture in dog training that is saying we don't need to correct these behaviors. We're just simply going to reinforce them, right? So my perspective of this is do better before you get the dog. Think about the cost. Think about how much training might cost. Shop around in your city. See what is the best way to go about it. And I've been seeing a big influx of people before they're getting dogs calling me, asking me for help. And that's just something I want to continue to advocate for.
That's a great idea. One thing that, with going the situation with Rocky is when my vet told me about the kidney levels and she told me what was going to have to be done, I know for a fact that if I hadn't have, spent those 5 days with him being there and getting those fluids in him, he wouldn't have made it, because those levels were so high and he was so dehydrated. And I didn't know, because he wasn't acting that way. And she told me, she goes, and this isn't like to say anything about myself, because I love my dogs so much. They're my kids. But she says, there's so many people that would not do what you're doing. And she goes, I wish more pet owners were like you. And I was like, you owe it to that dog. You owe it to your dog to be there and do everything possible, as long as they're not suffering, to let them live as long as life is possible. And just like you said, it's a big responsibility.
You do owe it to your dogs. And at this point where we're at in society, we have affordable pet insurance. We have the best nutrition. You have some of the biggest advancements in training. We're at a situation where it's very possible for you to keep these animals. And if we're going to selfishly take them away from their environment and take them out of their natural element and say, you're mine, you're with me and my family now, we owe it to them to treat them like family.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, Jen, I know you have a few programs that you offer and that you design them for each client. Tell us a little bit about some of the programs that you have.
So we have a new program, actually. It's called FIRE, and it stands for Fair, Interactive, Rewarding, and Engaging. Those are the foundations of what training should be for every dog. And what we're doing now is, since we've gone viral a lot, video after video online, it seems like there's something that people are attracted to with us. We're working with people across the world. We have clients in South Africa. We have clients in Australia. And we're taking on clients all throughout the United States now, thankfully. And what it is a step-by-step lesson plan where we teach you to do things like this. Have your dog on their bed while you work from home. For you to be able to go through your neighborhood and have a walk where your dog's paying attention to you. For you to be able to have the trust that your dog's going to come back when called. Right? So we're designing these programs based on what people need, because we find that if a training is too complex or not based on what people need, if they're not seeing like what we call gratification it doesn't have to be instantly, but within the first few weeks, they lose the motivation to keep going. So what we want to do is keep that motivation up. Same thing with our dogs. I am just selling hope to this dog. Right now, he's hoping that if he stays on here, that he's getting his reward.
Right.
I am just selling hope. I call myself a hope dealer. And I tell my clients that that's what they are, right? We're everything to our dogs.
And you're able to do a lot of the training since you're doing it all over the world. Are you doing a lot of it over Zoom?
Yeah, we're able to do it on Zoom. So our program is this. We have our lessons, one-on-one coaching. And then what we do is in between our coaching sessions, you actually need to submit homework for our trainers to review and give you feedback before our next session, so that it's more of having a trainer in your pocket or having a trainer on your living room. Nope. Good. Having a trainer in your living room, having accessibility to your trainer so that you can get the results you're looking for.
Right.
Right.
It's amazing how that's come full circle. I mean, the last few years, obviously, the horrible thing we've gone through with COVID, how so many things have turned to Zoom, but there's so many things that quote unquote positive have come out of it, where you realize how much more you can do on the computer. And I guess dog training is a big part of that.
People are a lot more accepting to doing things online because of COVID, because they saw the possibilities of doing things online. So what we're doing is just that, utilizing Zoom, utilizing the cloud so that people can upload their homework, and just giving good feedback and coaching people through their dogs. There are rare situations where we're not able to help people online, though. I am upfront about it. You know, there's situations where we might have a dog that's being aggressive, fear aggression, or some sort of aggression, serious behaviors. We don't recommend them for our online program. But there might be some basic behavior modification, jumping on guests, barking at things, even maybe some rare cases of being territorial, where we can help you online. So that's a big program we've rolled out. We also have clients sending their dogs to us to our board and train program from all sorts of different states. So, you know, we connect them with a transporter that will safely bring their dog to us. Then they come halfway, learn from us. Then we go back to them, drop their dog off to their home, make sure that the dog's listening in their environment. And then we follow up with them via Zoom. And we tell them, if we ever come back into town, we're able to meet and help you. And that's what people want. They don't only want dog training, they want to feel like they have a support and community.
Absolutely. That is, you nailed it right there. They want to feel like they have that support, that you're not just there, oh yeah, I'm going to train you a little bit, and then you're not going to hear from me again, and I'm not working with you. You're somebody who you're looking to build long-term relationships with people.
Exactly. That's what Kaizen is built off. That's one of my biggest, I guess, selling points. Even though I feel like I'm not selling anything, I'm just here to be of service to my community, is that, guess what? You're really buying into having a trainer in your pocket. You want to have a question about what dog food to get, what treat to get, what should I be doing with my dog when we're not training? What should I be doing with my dog when people come over? That's what people like me and my team, because we are answering these questions. We are there when you need support. We're basically we're being a best friend to you and your dog.
And, you know, you talked about, you know, it's going viral and everything. Some of those TikTok videos, I mean, 15 million views. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is unbelievable. I had one video do 35 million. I was just appalled.
That's unreal. And, you know, I appreciate, once again, we talked about, you recommended, you know, Jeremy, who worked with you, who's now working with me, has helped me out, man. He is just in the last month and working with me, my Instagram views have just skyrocketed compared to where they were in the videos and the reels that he's doing. So that guy is spectacular. And I've already recommended him to a few people. I'm hoping they use him, because he's really good and he's very, very affordable too.
Yeah, he is. I mean, shout out to Jeremy. I'm very grateful for him. I managed to connect him also with Garrett, and Garrett has blown up online as well. As much as I am helping out customers, I'm also helping out other business owners. I know what it's like to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I also am doing business consultations with other dog trainers, other people who need help in the industry, because we have the technology, we have the marketing and everything that you need to succeed as a dog trainer here. And I have also consulted with brands like DIY Canine. I helped build out that website. I have helped get sales in. I actually was a big influence as to Garrett being a part of social media, aside from YouTube. You know, when I mentored underneath him, it was a great friendship we made. And I was like, Garrett, you know, the future is these short format videos, get on TikTok. And I commend him because he got on it really fast and he blew up really fast. So, you know, I wish other dog trainers the best. I'm not trying to gatekeep information. Sure. I feel like in this dog industry, people are trying to gatekeep information. That's where the term dog whisperer came from. It was that this person knew how to handle dogs and you didn't know how to handle it. Well, the reality is that there's so many dog owners, and the future of this industry is that it's going to be $1 trillion industry. We might as well have as much help as we can get.
Absolutely. And what are, you know, you've obviously with the internet talked about how much you've grown. You're in Atlanta, you train all over Florida, and now obviously all over the world. What are some of your future goals with Kaizen? You know, if someone doesn't live near you, and, you know, and obviously with Zoom that you're available to work with them, do you have some big goals that you're looking to do?
Yeah, so some big goals we're looking to do soon is we're going to be coming out. Well, I don't know if it's Kaizen, but I'm going to be coming out with I want to start creating a product to get into that nutrition space. So I might have a product coming out there. We're also going to be creating I want to create a clothing line that is a little bit more modern and representing these dogs more. And then I'm also going to be getting into franchising and creating other Kaizen canine facilities outside of Atlanta and Florida. So, you know, we're going to be basically giving the investment opportunities to some folks to create these facilities and get to another point.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. So tell us a little bit more about, you know, King that's there with you, and also your dog Static.
So King right here, he's a Cane Corso. He's young. He's a young puppy. So you've seen him make a handful of mistakes. And all I do is pick up the leash and put him back on there. King is an Italian Mastiff. They get to the size of around 120 pounds, 150 pounds. Nope. Good. And what we're looking to do with him is his family dropped him off so he can get on and off leash obedience for him to listen and do well with and without a leash. And he's doing well so far. So he's a little bit over halfway in his program. He's able to stay on here with distractions. He's able to stay on here for longer periods of time because we reinforce that. And he's been a pleasure to train because he's food motivated. He's excited about training. He's a young puppy. It's really an easy thing to train a dog like him. His genetics really show out for him as well. Static, he's going on 4 in 2 months in April. Rescued him from the Redlands down in South Florida, Homestead, Florida. It was one of the best things that I ever did. It was a life-changing thing, actually. Because of him, I ended up working with several other dog training companies because they were people I hired to train him, and I wanted to work with them and see how I could become a trainer. So if I didn't adopt him, I would have never got into training. But it was one of the best things we could have done. Static right now is learning how to do scent work and odor detection. So what I'm doing with him is we're basically teaching him how to find the freshest scent in the room so that I could get him certified in sniffing for drugs. Just something that I wanted to do on the side because I see a lot of a particular set of breeds doing it. I thought it would be a challenge to see if I can get an Australian cattle dog to do something that a Belgian Malinois or a Dutch Shepherd typically would be doing.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
What are some of the most important lessons that you personally have learned in your life?
Some of the most important lessons that I have learned in my life is, I would say, pay attention because attention pays. That's something that I have said a lot in this community. And it's true. So I tell people, you know, your dog is paying attention because attention pays. We need to do the same. So when you're doing something, try to be as present as possible so you can learn as much as possible. Another thing is to be grateful for where you're at. Be grateful for where you're at now. Don't try to rush the process. Trust the process. Right? Good boy. Don't try to rush the process. Enjoy the process and work efficient. You know, I don't agree with the statement that you need to work smart and not hard. because if you didn't work hard, how would you find a smart way?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So for you to find the smart way, you had to at least go through some sort of struggle so that you can learn that this way is smarter than the other way. Good boy. You see how he's trying to get off?
Yeah.
And I'm catching him before and I'm letting him know, continue staying on there.
Yeah.
Right. If he makes the mistake, then I'll tell him no. But
see, there's a bed right behind you. It's a little bit harder to see. So he's standing on a bed.
Yeah, he's standing on his elevator.
Okay, there you go.
Right. Yep.
That's amazing.
Nope. Good boy.
Look at that tail wagging.
Yeah, you see his little nub.
Oh, they can't help themselves sometimes. That's such a wonderful thing. You know, just
yeah, it's such a beautiful dog.
Gosh, yeah. So how can people find you online and follow you on social media? Because, man, they have to. Anybody that has a dog, even if they don't have a dog, I mean, they need to be on your TikTok and looking at some of the stuff that you do and do on there, because it's unbelievable.
Thank you, Michael. So you can find us at Kaizen K9 on Instagram. You can find us. I'm sure that you'll put the link below this podcast with all our socials. We'll give you a link in bio, and you can book a phone call with us for free. Any questions you have, I actually try to personally answer them. So we get hundreds of DMs every day, and I make sure that to the best of our ability that we get to most of them, right? So you can reach out with the phone consultation link in my bio, and you can also find our platforms. Nope. King Spot. Good boy. Right? So you can find our platforms. I like to be raw and authentic like this. I like to show people what the training looks like, because there is mistakes. A lot of trainers just show before and after. I like to show the process.
Right. We talked about, off the air about having you come back on as a recurring guest, the next time, if you could maybe, bring a dog on and do, some of the little bit of the training you do. I don't want you to obviously give away everything, because I wanted somebody wants to learn from you.
Yeah.
We need to go through your program and everything like that. But, you can bring on, one of your dogs and show us some of the little methods that you do. That would be just pretty awesome. How does that sound?
Yeah. Next time, we can get a studio set up in the training room, and we can show you what it would look like to possibly train one of our puppies or train a dog, and show you what the process looks like. And you can show a dog, you can see a dog learning live.
Yeah, because I'd love to have you come on, maybe once every 3 months or so, just to have the, because this is just some amazing stuff. And people need to, like I said, not only follow you, but anyone that's interested in having training done, they need to contact you, because I can just tell from everything that I've seen on you and just talking to you, what you're doing, and you're doing such an amazing job. It's sort of funny how I found you. I have a Facebook friend who I'd only met a couple of times in my life. She actually, when I had 2 pulmonary embolisms about 4.5 years ago and almost died, wow. She came to visit me at the hospital, and we were just Facebook friends. And, she was one of very few, and not that other people weren't coming, just I was sort of private about it and didn't really go into detail what was going on, but she came and visited me. She contacted me several months ago. And told me that, hey, you need to get this guy Taijon on your podcast, because he's really, really good. He has all these reels and great videos. And I'm glad I listened to her and followed up, because, once I went on your Kaizen K9 Facebook and started following you, and then on TikTok, I was so impressed with what I saw. And as I mentioned, you're only 26 years old, right?
Yeah.
I mean, such a positive and bright future ahead of you, man. I mean, not only in dog training, but, you can't do what you do without being a really genuine, caring person, because you cannot fake what you do. There's just no possible way.
I'm grateful. I really want to give. I feel like I said, people were trying to gatekeep information in the dog industry. So what did I do? I went out there, and I want to give out more free dog training. Right? There's nothing to gatekeep here. There's so many people to help, and I'm grateful for that one particular follower who was, who saw my stuff and was inspired to share it and reach out to you. And I look forward to coming back here, getting better as a public speaker, getting better, showing you how I manage these dogs, and just being a part of your show. I really think that Think Big should be one of the biggest podcasts in the future as well.
Man, I really appreciate that so much. And thanks so much again for coming on today. We'll have you back on again soon. Also want to make sure I thank my sponsor, Platinum Jewelers, for having us, as a sponsor today. And I just got my first sponsor recently. They're a local company here in Memphis, in Germantown, the suburb of Memphis, and they do spectacular work. And the gentleman that owned the company, Preston, saw a lot of my podcasts and said, hey, I'd like to be a part of that. So we're really appreciative of them too. So we will talk to you soon. I appreciate it. Take care, King.
Problem. Hey, congrats on that sponsor. And King says, good evening. Thank you for having me.
Thanks a lot, buddy. Take care. Talk to you soon.